Hello. Welcome, everybody. How's it going, Ryan? Aaron, how are you doing?
Really good.
Going great. I'm in Oklahoma City this week, so I'm continuing my trend of a new city every time we do this.
What are we at now, Ryan? What episode is this?
This is 4, I think.
Episode 4 of Cloud Connect, and you've been
remote,
Dallas, all different places.
Knoxville, Guatemala, and now Oklahoma City. So
you've got quite the trend going.
I know. Next one will be in Knoxville, unfortunately. Then one after that, Italy. So why? Because I don't take vacations. My wife loves it. Every time we go on vacation, still working.
I'm still in my basement office in North Dakota. Even though I was in Dallas last week.
You're snowed in. You can't get out. That's why.
I was in Dallas last week for an SMC Tech Sales Summit where we got to meet our team for the first time in many years, got to meet with a bunch of partners. Really neat event. But for today, we have a special guest, and I think someone that folks are going to feel like they know him once they hear what he did. And we talk about the tool or the license kind of landscape guide that we all use. But we do have Aaron Dinnage here on the line from Microsoft. He's overseas, though. Aaron, want to quick say hi to the stream here and give a quick intro on yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Grant, and great to meet you guys, and thanks for the opportunity to jump on today. So I'm Aaron Dinnage. I'm a modern work specialist based in Australia with Microsoft. I'm here in Canberra, our nation's capital, and I work with the Australian federal government. And I've been with Microsoft about 10 years, and in that time, I've been as frustrated with our licensing as you have, and so I kind of took it into my own hands and created some work that some folks have gotten some use out of, which we're here to talk about.
We have gotten use out of it indeed. I know in all the years that I've been supporting Modern Workplace, I heard about this M365maps.com site, and I think hopefully folks will resonate with them, and we're going to have the link dropped in the comments and in the description of the chat here if folks haven't looked at it before. But once I saw that, it was like, oh, all of a sudden this Microsoft licensing landscape kind of makes sense. Ryan, would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I mean, so I used it as a customer before I came to Microsoft. And now with all of my customers, it's one of the first things we do. As soon as they mention licensing, we start talking like, oh, what do you have access to? I go, oh, let's go to m365maps.com, and I'm going to show you. Because Microsoft does not make it easy to find this information. And when you do, it's never right. I feel like, we'll say the only thing that, and you've added this now, like, GCC functionality, which is awful for U.S. government customers. But even still, I'm just like, oh, it's so easy. Just go look it up. Like, this is so convenient. All the links are there. So yeah, this is one of the things that I expect my customers to know at this point. If they don't know about it, I'm going to mention it enough times they finally bookmark it and stop asking me questions, because every year. So
as we kick off, I think the first question, and you maybe alluded to it a little bit, Aaron, when you introed yourself, why did you make this?
Yeah, sometimes I ask myself the same question. It is a lot of work, and you'll probably note pretty early on that it's due for an update. Now, when I say due for an update, there's little things changing all the time, and I try to get in and make sure that it's always reflective of the current reality. The most common thing requested at the moment is to get more information about Copilot in there. That's very hot right now. So, but look, coming back to your question, the reason I created it was as a tool for myself. So when I joined Microsoft, our licensing material was not great. I would say, it's improved a lot since then, but nothing was really capturing it all on a page. It's all very fragmented, and nothing was really visualizing it in a way that worked with the way I think. I've got a software development background. I'm a techie at heart, and I love Venn diagrams. I love that as a way to express information. And so I was working with a colleague of mine who was playing around with how to communicate enterprise mobility suite licensing to his customers back at that time. We now call it Enterprise Mobility Plus Security, and that sort of sparked this idea of, hey, we could create something that was, more exhaustive, explain more of the landscape of Microsoft 365 licensing and related services, and really help folks to very quickly visualize, very quickly understand where things fit. So it started off as a couple of diagrams. In fact, the one on screen now around EMS was one of the earliest iterations of that. And then that just grew and grew and grew. And over time, more and more people asked for, could you add this? Could you add, a diagram for that? And I was getting use out of it myself, and still do. I still use it probably as much as everybody else. As just a part of the way that I communicate with my customers about the solutions that are available to them and the licensing structures.
Do you make sure to tell them, here's this little tool I made. Let me whip it up real quick and show you how great this is? It's like I have a hard time not mentioning that if this was my site.
Yeah, it's it can be a little embarrassing when people, they don't know that I've done this, and then suddenly, like you reveal years and years of hard work that you put into it. And just casually drop it into a conversation. And look, it does take a lot of work. It is a complicated area, Microsoft licensing. And I always say to folks, that complexity is born out of a desire for flexibility. The reason there's complexity is because it's so flexible. You can add the pieces you need when you need them. You can, bring in the functionality that's relevant to you, because every IT shop is in a different place of journey to Microsoft cloud services, but also third-party components that exist. So yeah, it's complicated for a reason. Sometimes I wonder if it's too complicated in some areas and not enough in others, but that's always an interesting question to dig into. So hopefully this helps folks to navigate some of that complexity and very quickly visualize where that's at. But it's also a nice side project for me as a reformed software developer. I get to keep playing around with writing code and sort of challenge myself to write this whole site just in vanilla JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. So it's also a fun little side project for me.
So I got a question. So what I've kind of been showing here on the screen is really how I navigate the site. I pull up whatever one I'm looking at. Usually it's the M365 Enterprise, and I zoom in. Everything is hyperlinked, brings you to the doc pages. I break it into, Office 365, EMS, and Windows. And then, of course, stepping up to E5 gives you security, compliance, and some other things. Do you think I'm using this the right way, or is there a better, more efficient view? Or I think that I'm probably scratching the surface for what you've actually done here.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Folks find different parts of the site to be more, that connect with different parts of this more than others. So for me, it always started with and ends with the diagrams. It's just connects how I think. But a lot of people were asking, could you build in a kind of table view? And so down beneath the diagrams, there's some links there. And one of them is to something called the feature matrix. And with the feature matrix, you can view it more like a traditional Excel table type layout, but you can filter. So if you're only interested in comparing certain licenses or a certain progression of licensing, you can filter out the things that you don't want to see and get a really refined view. You can also search based on the name of a feature and just show those. So some folks really connect with this visualization and find that this is how they want to use it. There's no right or wrong way. But for me, it's always been about the diagrams. That's the way my brain works. So yeah, it was fun building this additional piece, but it's I got to say, it's not how I use it myself on a day-to-day basis. One of the other things about the diagram view, a lot of people haven't maybe looked into, there's a little menu that sits at the top right of the screen when you're on that diagram view, and you can do a lot of different things with the diagram. So one of the things that people ask about is, I'd love to be able to draw on this and work through it with my customer, show them what's available. And so there's a little edit menu that pops down there, and you can highlight, you can draw, you can mark up this content and then save it or export it. And it just helps people to visualize where they're up to in the journey of deploying some of these capabilities as well. So it's kind of turning into a little image editing package as well, which is fun. It's been fun to play around and add all these features to the site. So I'd really encourage folks to explore the site, check out all the buttons, see what they all do, and please do provide feedback. You know, it's a side project of mine. It's not official Microsoft work. I don't get paid to do this. It's just a bit of fun. And I really love getting the feedback and suggestions from folks about how to make this better and more useful for them.
I'll make a joke that we know it's not official Microsoft because it's too simple and clear. But Grant and I have been, last year we ran a couple of webinars around Microsoft licensing that were really well attended. We're doing another one Thursday this week about Microsoft 365 licensing. And it's always so interesting for people's questions because, like, I managed licenses for city government for a decade. You know, I had to learn everything because I was just the person who did that stuff, right? And so for me, I'm like, oh yeah, it's simple. Let's talk through this. But for other people, I feel like your site made it possible for them to feel comfortable looking, because it always seems so overwhelming. Once you even start, if you have no history of it, so it's like, oh, do you want the E3, the F3, the E5, like all people throwing like letters and numbers at you in a way that people just kind of get overwhelmed. And well, we really need X functionality. And you're like, well, okay, so you can get the step up or whatever, and I can just go, oh, let's go to the site and look. Here's where it is, right? Here's so you can see. And here's what comes with it, all in one simple place. And so it's been really convenient for us, but it makes it simple in a way that hopefully people aren't as afraid anymore to look at it. Because Grant and I, thinking about it, have both dealt with customers that sort of either overbuy or underbuy in a way that isn't helpful for them, because whoever's in charge of it just doesn't know where to go, right? They're getting a licensing partner's trying to tell them one thing, and they just kind of go, I don't know, let's just do it. Okay, fine, whatever. And so it's been really helpful for us and other people to look at it. And I told people I was talking to you, and everyone I told who has used the site was like, oh my God, really? I was like, he's a real person, and he's going to talk to us. Get ready. So,
no, look, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Ryan. And it's a common misconception. I think people kind of assume that the licensing is complicated to bamboozle people or to fool them or to, have them just kind of give up and buy the bigger thing. And it's absolutely not the case. You'll know as well as I do, working with customers day in, day out, we want our customers to be educated about this, to pick the right thing to match the situation they're in and where they're going. And so it's always been about education for me. How do I help my customer to get comfortable with the licensing, which is a byproduct of a product choice they're trying to make. We've all got to navigate the licensing. Let's make that as easy as we can. Let's help them be as informed and educated about that as they can, so they can get the right solution for where they are and where they're going with their technology. So that's really what drives this desire, and I think it's why people get excited about what the site can do, because it demystifies something for them. I've been just blown away by the positive sentiment that's created, and people reaching out and thanking me for that. I'm going to keep doing it as long as I'm connected to this technology and this role. So expect to see more updates coming to the site in the future as well. It's absolutely not abandoned in any sense. I've been working on a number of interesting new features and additions, and I hope people continue to get value out of it. And as long as they do, I'm going to try and keep it up to date and keep maintaining it.
Well, as long as we have licensing, people will get value out of it. So you're good there. So you mentioned Copilot. Does part of you feel like maybe this is bigger than M365 Maps at this point? Like, you already, like, I see enterprise calendar. Like, there's stuff that is outside of the M365 suite. Obviously, the name is super simple and easy to remember, so don't change that. But do you feel like you want to grow beyond that? Like,
yeah, it's a great question. I try to cover a number of adjacent areas and sort of related services that someone who's using Microsoft 365 would consider or have an interest in. But I get asked all the time, can you do this for Dynamics? And can you do it for the Power Platform? And both of those are big, and they're not my specialty. And so I try to keep it to an area that I have some expertise in. I'd absolutely support someone trying to do something similar for Dynamics Power Platform and other areas of Microsoft licensing, but that's too much for me to take on, and I'd be worried about the quality of the work if I tried to stretch to those areas that I'm not working with on a day-to-day basis. But Copilot is incredibly hot right now, so it's actually consuming a lot of my day-to-day. That's a big part of what I'm talking about with my customers. But it's also I'd say I'm working on a couple of things to help clarify that. I think there's a lot of people saying, oh, there's a Copilot for everything. There's 1,000 of these Copilots, and that tells me, okay, there's an opportunity to simplify this for people. So I'm working on a few ways to visualize the Copilot landscape that will help people really connect what am I trying to do, or what is the end user or the user experience I'm trying to create? What's the right Copilot to deliver that? So that's something that I hope to have in the next update. And I'll definitely be covering more of that Copilot landscape going forward. I also do try to focus on where there is inherent complexity, because again, coming back to the core of what the site is there to do, it's to try and educate and help people navigate the complexity. So I'll always try to steer towards areas of complexity rather than just say adding a new diagram for the new thing that's very simple. It's always about making it simpler.
Well, we'll be looking forward to any updates that you push out. I know that it's, again, something that we use on the regular, and indeed the Copilot conversation and which Copilot am I using for Copilot is something that we're talking about a lot. And I haven't, I've seen a couple of decent diagrams that kind of break down the different areas that we currently have a Copilot for, but I would say that based on the history of what you've put together, so far, you're going to probably have a pretty great way to digest it and understand, oh, that makes sense now of what Microsoft has going on. So definitely we'll be looking forward to that. Do you by chance, and I was just thinking of this, when you think about impact, like I'm sure you have analytics you can pull of how many page views you get, and not that any of that necessarily matters. Like or at least I just have a feeling from the conversation we've had, like the numbers and that piece maybe doesn't really get you that jazzed up, or that's not what you're in it for. But I am curious, like there's got to be an astronomical amount of traffic that's hit this site. Is that a fair assumption?
I kind of don't know. So when I created the site, I deliberately made it as a bit of a project for myself to write it in plain HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. No libraries, no frameworks, no nothing. And I took that to the extreme where I decided not to integrate any analytics, no tracking of what was popular and what wasn't. I kind of didn't want to know in the early days. But that thought has been growing inside my mind. And And then I start to see numbers like I get reports from Bing and Google to say this is how many search hits, and that's in the tens of thousands each month. And I recently re-platformed the site from GitHub pages to Azure Static Web Apps. And that platform gives me more insight just inherently into how many page hits, how many DNS lookups are occurring to the site. Over the last month, there was something like 1.6 million DNS hits. I don't know what to take from that number. It's kind of a scary big number. On the next update, I will be putting in one minor change to the site that just allows me to see unique visits to the page through the Azure Static Web App system. So it's going to be really interesting to see what that number comes back as. But at the moment, it seems like there's somewhere in the tens to maybe 100,000 sort of hits per month on the site. There's a lot of caching that the site does, so it's kind of also hard to tell, when someone's just getting a purely offline experience. So, yeah, watch this space. If you hear me fall off my chair the next time I do an update, you'll know why, because I'll be getting some of those stats then.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Well,
and I think
one last thing, prepare yourself.
Ryan, one last thing I'll say, like, just think how cool it is, Aaron, that you've been able to create this service, provide this value to people while working at Microsoft. Like, I mean, that's just, I think anybody that's out there that goes, man, I've got an idea, or I think I could try something and create impact. Like, this is proof that what you have to share, like what the experiences that you have are valuable to people. And if you have a way that you can get it in front of them and they can consume it, like, just what a neat story.
I think that's a fantastic point, Grant. We often think, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that, or oh, everybody knows that, because you're staring at it day in, day out, or you think that it's not going to have value. I never had any pushback from Microsoft in putting this together. I've only had encouragement. The team that deal with our licensing and communication day in, day out, I know they work really hard. I know they do a fantastic job under difficult constraints, and they've only encouraged me. They've been really, really supportive. So, going in, I thought someone's going to shut this down. It's only a matter of time before somebody taps me on the shoulder and says, you shouldn't be doing that. But it's been the absolute opposite. And so, yeah, as I've had that encouragement, it's sort of confirmed for me that there's a need, there's a niche here that I'm filling. You don't know until you try. So there's so much great expertise bound up in folks working in the industry day in, day out. If you have any sense that there might be some value in putting that out there, just go for it. Just do it. There's really no downside.
Love it. Ryan, do you have any last questions? Or I want to be mindful of time here. I know we're getting to the end, so I want to wrap things up. But if you had any other questions, Ryan?
No, I mean, other than to say, Aaron, thank you so much for, recognizing the need, first of all, and then for doing this. I feel like, you've been very humble about saying, like, if you go out there and just do something interesting. But I feel like you've done it in a way that is just, more helpful than I could have imagined, right? Like the way you visualize it, and I think you talked about, that's sort of the way that you try to picture anyway, right? This Venn diagram overlap of what follows what, has just been so simple for other people who, I said, Grant, I talk to people all the time about this, and it's become just this invaluable tool that Microsoft internally uses it. I've been on calls with engineers who brought up the website to talk about something, right? Our customers use it, the partners use it. So, keep up the good work, please, for our sake. Anything we can do to help, from our side, or anyone watching, please let us know, because this is such an important tool at this point, that I honestly don't know what our conversations would look like without it. Like it's been that pivotal in the way we talk to people, that I can't imagine trying to do this without being able to say, let's just go to n365maps.com, share my screen. There you go. So not really a question, just more thanks for you.
Thank you. It's really generous of you to say that, Ryan. And look, the thing that I would just encourage folks to do is, if you've got feedback, if you've got ideas, if there's something you'd like to see the site do for you that would make your life easier, hey, reach out. Very open to feedback and suggestions. I've been working with a number of folks around the world inside Microsoft and our partners to try and enhance the site and add little things that just make their day-to-day work a little bit easier. And that's what it's all about. So yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate the chance to have a chat to you guys about this, and I really appreciate the feedback.
Indeed. Just in the vein of that last statement you made about feedback, providing feedback, what's the best way to let you know or provide that feedback?
Yeah, you can contact me on Twitter or LinkedIn, and just reach out, shoot me a message. I might try and then pull it into a conversation or an email. Often, it being a complicated area, it requires a little bit of back and forth if you've got particular things that you're looking at around the licensing. But yeah, just reach out on one of those platforms. You'll find links on the website itself, and we can spark the conversation there and see where it goes.
Perfect. Well, appreciate the time, Aaron. It's great to have you on, and hopefully we'll have an additional conversation in the future when there's some new updates, and we can talk about all the continued great things you've been doing here.
It was really great to speak to you guys today. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah. Have a great day.
Bye.